welcome to the Food Professor Podcast, episode 42. I'm Michael LeBlanc.
And I'm the food professor, Sylvain Charlebois.
Well, Sylvain, I don't know what we're going to talk about. There's almost nothing going on in the industry, but I think we'll manage. I think we'll find a few things to talk about in this episode. But first of all, we've got our great sequence, our great segment again, trying stuff. And this time we have GoGo Quinoa. Look at that, GoGo
That's
Quinoa.
Right.
They
GoGo
sent us
Quinoa.
Yeah, there's one you sent us.
Yeah.
They sent us, of
This
course,
is the
a
one I'll
bag.
try. Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to try the this one, which is the lentil pasta and vegan cheese. And then they also sent strawberry quinoa
I know.
cereal. Come on, how exciting! I'm going to try that too.
That was a bit of a surprise. So oats and quinoa cereals. So we're going to try that as well.
Very exciting. So a great Canadian, a Montreal-based company reached out. And once again, for the listeners and the viewers on YouTube, people just send us this stuff. We're under no obligation to try it. We just try stuff. And we love exposing new product and brands and trying different stuff. And talking.
And if you want us to try your products, please connect with either myself or Michael.
Yeah, LinkedIn or whatever, reach out, and we love it. We got more stuff coming. We've tried lots of great product. And we also have a great interview coming up. We got a great interview with Xavier from Cial, the great trade show. And it's probably one of the first food international showcase shows, any show in the industry in Canada since COVID, right? So it's very exciting happening in Montreal. We'll get to, we'll get to lots more details on that. All right, well, let's jump right in. I mean, where to start? Well, let's talk about food movement across the border. So I wanted to get from you the short and long-term damage, if any, done with the border blockade. So I just, and of course, done to the food industry, because this isn't a political podcast. We could go on and on off mic about different things. But let's just hone in on this very broad topic about
on trades,
on trade, and specifically on the food business and the food trade. Short and long term assessment as you're thinking about it.
And I've been speaking to some industry pundits, importers, and it's not a great scenario right now. I mean, it's been complicated. It's been complicated for a while. The vaccine mandate was one thing. It was it basically brought some challenges, but those challenges were actually predictable, and you can plan your way with by doing business with companies in the US and vice versa. It was possible to actually plan ahead because the decision was made back in November. But the blockades just made things much worse, unfortunately. And so, as you know, Michael, I'm here this semester at the University of South Florida, so I do interact with a lot of Americans. I mean, last week it was all about obviously the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl took a big space in the news cycle, but and after the Ukraine and the Super Bowl, it was Ottawa. It was the border, and frankly, and President Biden actually did talk about the situation, particularly in relation to the bridge in Windsor, which really would see 25% of all commerce between the two countries.
It's $450 million a day move across that bridge between our two great nations, right? Between the
and
US
in agri-food, it's 8 to 12 billion a year. So just in food,
huge.
And right now, obviously, you would see produce, dry stuff being covered by this bridge. And so it was problematic. And of course, when the bridge was blocked, it became America's problem as much as Canada's problem. I mean, I've always said in my talks that that supply chains are the backbone of both economies, but the border itself is the spinal cord of our economy, really. Without the border, a functioning border, an open, fluid border, things really get messy very quickly. And we saw that with the car industry. We saw that with different industries. Unfortunately, I've heard reports from grocers that they had to scrap cargo produce because the cold chain was compromised as a result of delays. They had to reroute. They had to go to Sarnia instead of going through Windsor. I mean,
which
so
is a
some of these,
small point. I've been to Sarnia a bunch of times, and it's not the Windsor Detroit
yeah,
infrastructure for moving
it,
goods, right?
exactly. So it just made things more complicated. And frankly, when I heard that the Trudeau government was going ahead with the with the
Emergency measure.
emergency, yeah, the emergency measure. Um, I From an international perspective, so for America looking into Canada, I think it was actually the right message to send.
Mm,
Now, I don't know what the parameters of the decision are, because of course, you need all parties to support this and everything else. But
yeah.
from a for America, I think that's the message you had to send, because as soon as we saw problems at the border, what I'm hearing in Florida are things like, well, maybe Canada is actually making a case for Buy America First, as
Mm,
an example.
mm.
And as soon as you start hearing that, it's problematic. I mean, we need America, and America needs us. And so I'm pleased that something did happen in the end. I don't know, what are your thoughts, Michael?
Well, listen, the Emergencies Act is an act of proportionality. I mean, if the Prime Minister's father put in the War Measures Act in the early '70s, which was a blunt 2x4 of an act, whereas basically martial law. So this both sends a signal internal, it does a bunch of things around funding. We won't get into that because we could go down a long, dark rabbit hole about what's going on.
Exactly.
But listen, at the end of the day, the border had to flow. I'm surprised. The one thing that's jumped out at me, when I was listening to the Premier Ford's, Ontario Premier Ford saying, we're going to pass some laws that make it illegal to do this. I'm like, aren't there laws already about blocking borders?
I know.
Is that
I
new?
know.
Is that new that there's no law against blocking a border? Anyway,
Upholding the law is an important thing when it comes to trades. And
listen,
so,
listen, man,
and it's
and
not
it's
just about,
yeah.
rights in your country. It's also about the image. I mean, I actually do think that Canada's image was
Bruised.
impacted by what
I
happened.
think we're like the fruit that sat on the trucks. We're bruised fruit,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
I
And
think,
and of course, as you know, Michael, this morning we saw inflation numbers coming out
yeah,
from
next
Statistics
point.
Canada. And I don't know if you went through the numbers, but
I
I
did.
actually went through the numbers this morning, and you could feel
Yeah,
that supply chain issues are impacting food prices, and border related
delays,
challenges are
complexity.
also
Yeah,
impacting food prices as well. And
yeah,
and of course, we don't know if it's because of the mandates or the blockades, or I mean, because of course we've been dealing with sanitary measures impacting the border since November, because that's when the decision was made on both sides of the border. And so I
yeah.
actually do think it's important to calm things down as much as possible, so we can provide a predictable
Trading environment.
market trading environment for businesses. That's really the most important thing.
Well, let's talk about inflation nation. 3-decade high, 3.4% inflation, and I was pulling it apart. I mean, the last, what was it, 1991, coming out of the last recession was 5.4. So proportionality, it's not, it's big, but it's not as big as it has been historically. Now, I as well did a little reading. I saw that really it's driven by three factors: food, gas, and accommodations. There's actually some things that went the other way. Apparel actually went the other way. Now that
Yep.
comes as no surprise to you. I mean, talk about you wrote the report, the food price report that we talked about in our
It's
episodes.
getting closer to our target. Yeah.
It's getting closer. Like when you slice the data, what was the food inflation number? And I had to laugh because you had the little meme of the rocket taking off in your Twitter. It just made me laugh. But are you concerned? I think it was like 6.1, 6.6 and change,
6.5. Yeah.
6.5% in the month of January. Based on our conversations previously, are you concerned that it's not 6.5? It's more like 10.5 because they may or may not be tracking it in the way that you would think. Or do you think they're kind of close to the hitting on the nose at 6%?
They're getting closer. I don't think they're there yet. But funny enough, Michael, I've been talking to some colleagues at the University of South Florida, and they too believe that that America is not reading inflation correctly as well.
Omniscient.
So
Omniscient.
and they came in this week at 7.4%
Wow.
for food.
7 point.
Yeah, and when you look
Wow.
historically over the last 30 years, typically Canada catches up to America.
Yeah.
So I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but this is just the start.
Mm.
We are looking at a very expensive 2022, unfortunately. So for consumers, bad news for sure.
Yep.
But what we often don't talk about in the media is how inflation will impact supply chain relationships.
Mm.
You know this, Michael. I mean, as soon as, let's say you're a processor and you have to charge more, you have to pass on extra costs to your customer, like Walmart, Costco, Loblaw, Sobeys, Metro. There's a lot of pushing and shoving. Not all retailers are willing to take on more costs and increase prices at retail. They want to make sure that things remain under control. And so, in some parts of the world right now, you're seeing processors boycotting retailers because they can't really increase prices. And we're talking CPG companies here. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering, and we're starting to see that in America right here in the United States. So I'm wondering how
Mm.
this high inflation rate will impact uh, this relate, because we don't have a code, and we've talked about the code, and still we're expecting something in April of this year. I'm just wondering how it will impact relationships between processors and retailers right now. Are you hearing anything on your end, Michael?
Yeah. I mean, I talked to one retailer who basically said over the fullness of time, everybody's going to have to take some pain in this. The consumer,
Exactly.
the vendor, and the retailer. But at the end of the day, the retailer stands between the CPG companies and the consumer. And the retailer is saying, you're not passing price increases to me. I'm going to go to somebody who wasn't. I mean, it is a classic back and forth negotiation and time immemorial. It will continue. The food processors say, listen, I need to up your rate. And then grocers say, too bad. I'm not taking the price increase. I'll go, so it is this is a big business, a $200 billion business. So it's very, very
Absolutely.
complex. I think we'll see again in the fullness of time. What's interesting to me, and I spend some time also, I brief the Bank of Canada quarterly on the retail industry as part of my advisory practice. And we've been talking about things like, well, is there enough momentum in the economy to overcome the inflation? And you look at America, for example, they released numbers today in retail sales, which includes food. They had close to 4% growth.
Mm.
The
Yeah,
sales keep coming. And what encourages me about getting through this, and not for everyone, is Royal Bank of Canada put out a report. There's 100 billion with a B of incremental savings in Canadians' bank accounts. 100 billion. That's dry
that's a lot of
powder
money.
for the economy, and they say that's incremental. Now, some way find its way, we imagine, as things open up into services and travel, and everybody wants to travel.
Yeah,
But also some finds its way into, listen, I can take the hit on the price because I've got this pent up or saved up. The economy, in other words, at the macro level, can absorb some inflation. In other words, we'll see how much it can absorb. I mean, that's ultimately, the final question. So that's why we're not seeing the banks on either side of the border really race to increase the interest rates. Is they think they'll raise it very proportionally, but even when they raise it, it's only going to be a couple of percent, like we're at.
exactly.
So I'm no
Yeah,
economist. I play one on a podcast, but
yeah, and
there you go.
what's helping us is a strong dollar. I mean, the Canadian dollar has been a non-story for almost, I guess, a year and a half now,
And
which is
it's fit. And the other point is, gas prices are very high, like record high. But in Canada, that's a natural hedge. When Ontario people are paying high for gas, it means people in Alberta, the industry is doing well. Like
is doing well. Yeah,
there's a natural balance there, right? So, the West, Calgary, Edmonton, these cities have been very challenged by a very low price of oil. When that goes up, more money in the tank, more disposable income going to drive your car. But the
yeah.
economy over the long term in Canada actually benefits when you do the big math, right?
For consumers, there's again a bit of a perfect economic storm,
Yeah.
unfortunately for them. Energy costs are higher, lodging costs are going up, and food as well. And as I said earlier, I don't see how our food inflation rate will drop anytime soon. And we did predict that it would reach about 7% for 2022, and that's basically what is happening right now.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's great start to the episode. Let's
Oh,
jump
by the
now.
way, Michael,
Yeah.
do you know
Yeah.
which item has gone up the most in January based on Statistics Canada's numbers?
Well, based on your Twitter feed and the poll you put out, I would have to say one part of the trifecta, chicken. Am I right?
That's right. Yeah,
Oh, there you
absolutely.
go.
Now,
All right.
here's the thing about chicken in particular.
Mm,
If you'll go back 11 years or 10 years, chicken has gone up about 11%. But prices have dropped over 10 years.
mm,
Now they're up, chicken prices are up 12% since last year. So you can see that really the last 12 months have been quite volatile at the grocery store.
okay.
And so,
Question for you on that. So I've been buying. Generally, I try to buy only organic chicken that I know is kind of raised properly. Let's
yeah.
just say, which of course I'm fortunate I can absorb that higher cost versus the cheap chicken, that you can get as a protein. Do you think
Yeah.
Do you think more people buying organic chicken, higher value added chicken, let's call it, is affecting that, or is it just an overall raising of the price? You think there's anything going
No,
on?
I mean, chicken, unlike dairy, chicken farmers, I mean, will go to the board and basically readjust prices based on the cost of production, essentially. And they do that regularly. Dairy will do it once a year.
Mm,
And that's why we're seeing dairy prices. I'm expecting butter was up 5% in January, and that
mm,
was before the increase of February 1st.
mm,
So, so I think dairy is going to be a big problem with the next little while. But for poultry, I think they do a good job incrementally increasing prices so they don't shock consumers.
mm.
Now, obviously, 2020 was a different year for
Yeah.
animal proteins in general, but chicken is a steady as she goes commodity. I mean, typically eggs is also supply managed, same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we had Mary on our podcast last year talking about eggs, and
From
so
Burnbury
very
eggs,
predict.
yeah, from
Yeah,
Burnbury, yeah.
exactly. And so they're pretty. It's a good, well organized industry. I don't know if you knew this, Michael, but there was the avian flu hit the poultry industry in Nova Scotia
Oh, I saw
last
yeah,
week. Yeah,
yeah,
it was. It didn't make national news, and that's a good thing because
yeah,
the avian flu is our chicken farmers' worst nightmare. I mean, it could spread very easily, could become a problem for the entire industry. But they were able to contain. The farmer was very responsible. Called the CFI right away. CFI actually
good biosecurity, right? They've got good biosecurity practices in place, yeah.
so they had to call about, I believe, 12,000 chickens, which is actually not a whole lot. So the industry is very well organized, has learned from past mistakes, and it's doing very well. Because if you call like Abbotsford back in 2001 was a disaster. We had to call millions of chickens, which ended up costing a lot for the industry and, of course, consumers in the end. But this time around, well organized, well contained, well managed.
All right.
Yep.
All right. Well, we'll come back to something. You mentioned butter. We're gonna come back to that after our interview with Xavier Ponsin from Seattle. All right, we're back, and let's talk about Buttergate. Buttergate Redux.
Yes.
You had you had what it looks like the worst nightmare for the industry. You keep coming back with you got some research published, right? Academic research published that you
Well, the
were
dairy,
talking about.
the dairy farmers, they, I actually don't think they really will read anything if it doesn't fit the narrative. I hate
Mm,
to say this, but I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. What they do is that they set up working groups and they publish reports to reassure the public. It's all about image. And this report that we released, which is our third peer-reviewed journal article, and in the top food science journal in the world, which I'm an editor of, by the way, but I was not involved in the industrial process. Obviously, yes, another editor was involved, and I'm not first author either. I need to clarify that. But so we're 8 authors working that actually did work on this project, only to basically provide evidence that they were data deficits, and the lack of transparency was so obvious with Buttergate. Now, you can dispute that palm oil was played a role in making butter harder. I mean, the evidence is actually in the paper that there is a strong correlation between palmitic acid presence in butter and firmness. It's there. And there's a bunch of hypotheses, including the use of palm oil, of course. But at the end of the day, the industry has never looked at the quality of the butter at retail, and it needs to do that. Now it's starting to do that. So the Buttergate incident, I think, was a good thing for the dairy industry. I think they're getting organized to better surveil, to better monitor the quality of products sold to Canadians. But I mean, when you go on Twitter, you can still feel that Canadians are discontent. They're not very happy. They're not very pleased with the quality of the butter that we have in Canada. Do you use a lot of butter for your recipes on your YouTube channel?
I do, and actually, I get my butter from Lactalis Cheese World, which ships direct, and I use their Presidente cultured butter.
Okay,
which is a whole level of good butter. I now, thanks to Cheese World, not Cheese World, but thanks to Buttergate, and are just talking about this, I switched to either grass-fed or organic butter, and I noticed a big difference.
Grass-fed for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed a big difference. Of course, it's a little more expensive, but I made these amazing ribs. I called them Mom's ribs because I didn't make them hot, and I put pads of butter and wrapped in aluminum foil, and the flavors just were amazing. I also used our last guests. They sent me some good food for good. They sent me some barbecue sauce that I mixed up with maple syrup as a glaze.
Oh, yeah.
That episode's coming up. Speaking of trying stuff,
But I just want to note the paper we just published in Trends. It was possible because of the effort and support of a good friend of mine, Alex Marjoni, from the University of Guelph. He's a food scientist. He's actually a member of the Order of Canada, and he's a well-accomplished author. And without his lab, we wouldn't have been able to test all the butter that we actually tested for the paper. So thank you so much to Alex, to the food science department at the University of Guelph.
All right, very good. All right, let's take a quick break, and then we'll be back with our Trying Stuff episode. All right, welcome to another great segment of Trying Stuff. Trying Stuff. This time, we have Montreal, Quebec-based GoGo Quinoa. Check that out, GoGo Quinoa.
That's right.
And this is not your grandmother's quinoa. They've got just such a great, they're fair trade, Quebec-based, lots of different products. Look at those cereals, got breakfast cereals. And I made...
they're
very generous.
Spoiled.
I made this lentil pasta and vegan cheese. And into that, I put oat milk and, some actual butter. So it's not really a vegan, but, whatever. And then I'm also doing these cereals. Look at this cereal. How fun is that?
Oh, yeah.
How fun is that?
Looks nice. Right. This is the one that I'm trying, the cereal.
Okay.
And this is how it looks. I haven't put the milk in yet, but this is how it looks.
All right.
So I'll put the milk just before I taste it, so it gets crunchy. I like crunchy cereals.
Well, I'm gonna try. So
are you trying cereals first?
Yeah, I'm gonna try cereals first.
So this is the milk I'm drinking.
Where's
right
the bag?
Here.
Where's the bag?
There's no bag.
That's right.
There's no bag. Yeah, the bagged milk is the conspiracy we have in Canada. So I'm pouring the milk.
All right. Oh, this is a strawberry flavored one. I left the package upstairs, but I think I showed it at the beginning.
Yeah, so the ones that I'm trying is oats and quinoa.
All right.
Let's try this.
Let's give it a go. Cheers. Oh, that's really good. I'm not a big breakfast cereal guy, but nice flavor, not overwhelming. A strawberry, but not cloying. Nice and light. And again in this I used oat milk.
This is, I don't know about yours, but mine is super crunchy.
Yeah, mine too. And I put my milk in.
As I'm eating, I can barely hear you. Yeah.
I'm crunching into the microphone. It's really good. That's really good.
Super tasty.
Now, do you have the box of the strawberry one that I had? Because I left it upstairs.
Yes.
Just show it to the camera if you would.
So
yeah, that's what I'm eating.
So the kids couldn't wait.
Yeah.
They actually destroyed the box. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And they loved it. They loved it. And so I told them, don't eat all of it because I need to do the show.
I got a show to do here. I gotta go. I got a show to do. Oh, Dad, you and your show. All right. Now I'm gonna have these, and it smells amazing. The GoGo Quinoa lentil pasta, and you know, you got to know. While I might not eat a lot of breakfast cereal, I eat a lot of pasta. So this is going to be a real test because I don't know. I like.
So it took you what, 4 minutes? It took us 4 minutes to prepare.
Yeah, the one thing if you're trying this, the one thing, pay attention because it's not like Kraft Dinner. It's 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes. You do more than that, you're probably going to have some pretty mushy pasta. So
2 minutes for al dente.
2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes for al dente, but which is what I did. So here's what that looks like. Check that out.
It looks lovely.
Wow. Now you're having the shells and vegan cheese.
I'm having the shells and vegan cheese. That's right.
All right.
Because I knew you were trying the other. So
all right, let's tuck in. Yeah. Let's give this a try.
Okay.
That's really good. It's delicious, really. Like if you put this in front of me and said I made you pasta, I wouldn't. Like grain pasta, I wouldn't know the difference.
Yeah, no, it's very tasty.
No, I probably could have put a bit more oat milk to make it more saucy, but that's a bit of experimentation. You never know how things go.
But it's not. You know, when you eat macaroni and cheese, it's the taste is fad a little bit. You know, you have to add extra stuff. You don't need to add anything.
No,
in this, it's tasty enough. Like it offers you a lot of different flavors.
The flavors really come through. I'm very it's funny. People saying you say this all the time. Again, I'm so pleasantly surprised by the taste and the flavor. It's just delicious, really. It's just delicious. Vegan cheese, so it's not even. You know, again, I'm not a vegan cheese eater, but if you put this in front of me, I wouldn't know any of that. It's just delicious food.
I'm just wondering why, like they went with shells and not macaroni or something else. I'm just intrigued by that. But because shells is not necessarily the most popular form, right, for pasta.
Well, maybe they're just staying out of the way of Kraft Dinner, right? Which is a very traditional.
Probably
look. They want to be a little less traditional.
Probably.
I don't know. Yeah. Maybe if anyone from GoGo Quinoa, our friends are watching or listening, just please comment and maybe tell us why the choice of the pasta design. Maybe that's something they tried.
So it's there's a lot of certifications that goes with the brand. You got non-GMO, plant-based. You got gluten-free. It's organic. I mean, there's lots of stuff going on here.
Going on.
It's so easy to cook, very quick, and in a second you got a meal, which is awesome.
I just it's a great product to actually have on an episode where we're talking about. We just listened to Cial about food innovation, and because it's very innovative food. The packaging's wonderful. It's fun, Canadian based, doing great work on both sides of the border. Actually, so there's another thing. Like they've got a U.S. great presence in the U.S., great distribution. It's great to see. It's just not your ordinary pasta. I mean, listen, if you like any of these things, you like pasta, you like lentils, you like of course they have the regular quinoa, all very fair trade quinoa.
We actually tried that. It was very, very, we tried it already, and it was very good. Absolutely. Yeah.
Organic, plant-based, I guess.
Now we were spoiled by GoGo Quinoa. They sent us a lot of food. So we're very thankful for that.
Very thankful.
But I mean, going back to our discussion about supply chain disruptions, I guess. You know, when you think about CPG companies, what we're looking at around the world, boycotting retailers, saying, "Well, we can't charge more." Well, this actually, because of the supply chain economics, I actually think that some of these products have a better shot. Because the last thing you want as a grocer is to have empty shelves, and so you may actually decide to occupy, basically get new SKUs to occupy some of your shelves with new
Interesting.
products.
Sorry, I just keep eating it.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep talking. I'm just eating.
Yeah, I
No,
know. I
listen.
know.
No, listen. It's really good. It shows, value-added innovation. Congratulations to our friends at GoGo Quinoa. And that was another episode of Drying Stuff.
With a full mouth.
With a full mouth. Talk with our mouth full. I think we're allowed to do that. All right,
Yeah.
let's bring it home. It's been a great episode. Lots to talk about. Lots going on. A reminder to everyone, check out our YouTube site and join us if you're in the industry. Come by. We're going to have a booth. We're the official podcast of the CL conference. We're going to be sitting there. We're going to be reaching out to some of you listeners, doing interviews. Sylvain and I will be in person for a couple of days. It's going to be wonderful.
Yep.
We'll all be set up. Come see us. Drop by. It's going to be a fantastic couple of days. I'm really looking forward to seeing you, Sylvain. That's
Absolutely.
a highlight for me. So let's wrap it up there. Thanks again for watching and listening. And if you please subscribe, we're on all the major podcast platforms. I'm Michael LeBlanc, president of Maven Media and a bunch of other things.
And I'm Sylvain Charlebois, the food professor.
All right, everyone. Have a great week. Be safe and see you next time.
Take care.